Well, hello and welcome to yet another edition of Caribbean Praise with myself, Grantley. It's nice to have your company today. Thank you for joining me. So, my guest on the program today is a Londoner. Can you believe it? Yes, my guest was born in England in 1969. He grew up in South London, Brixton to be precise, with his Jamaican parents who arrived during the Windrush era. Whilst attending church as a young boy alongside his parents, he grew up hard. He recalls growing up in the 80s, running from mods and skinheads. And it wasn't long after that period of time where he got involved with some, shall we say, dodgy dealings. And the end result was that he was arrested and fell into the system of what comes with that. Anyway, that didn't last too long before Christ snatched him up, and now he is definitely a godly man doing godly things for Christ. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the one and only Dr. David Williams, better known as Watchman. How you doing, bro?
Hey, how you doing, Grant Lee, man?
Oh, I am blessed of God. It's good to see you. It's good to hear you. I am so
Likewise.
pleased that you've taken time out of your busy schedule, and I'm really pleased that we're going to spend some quality time together. Now, part of the reason why you're on with me today is because you've just released a new single, which is called My God is Legend. We're going to get into that a little bit later on, but before I do that, I really wanted to spend some time on your background, where you're coming from, so that the viewers get a good idea of who you are as a person. Now, I introduced you as Dr. David Williams. A lot of people know you as Watchman, but tell us. I'm going to kind of jump back and forwards a little bit, but this doctorate that you're bantering. Tell us how that came about.
After 30 years out there in the industry, in more than one way, actually, because many people say, oh, you've got a doctorate in community justice, but it's not just a doctorate in community justice, it's a
Yeah,
doctorate in the arts, and it's also a doctorate in ministry. For the hard work that I put in working with universities, colleges, and also within the community as well, and definitely in the music field through my organization, Rap Academy.
and how long has it been since you were bestowed with this doctorate?
It's got to be over what 15 years, if not more. I'm
Wow,
sure.
wow.
Yeah, very long time now. But out of 30 years of service, which I've gone over now, but to the glory of God, I'm still standing.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Now, usually when these things happen, it's not just you on your own. Usually there's a bunch of people. Can you remember who else got theirs at the
Oh
same
my
time?
gosh! Listen, let me just give you
It's a
one
long
name.
time ago. I know I'm putting you on the
Well,
spot.
Doctor Derek Prince was also there as well, and
Derek
there was also
Prince.
yes, that's right, and there was also some other great men as well of the cloth as well. Who was also present. Names on the tip of my tongue. Maybe you could reel some of them off for me. Because there's some
Dr.
great
Hugh
men that.
Jackman.
Yes, Hugh Jackman was there as well, and there was another great minister as well. It was actually one of the pastors as well from Royal Ministries as well. So it was an absolutely amazing time, I
And,
must
and
admit.
where did it take place?
It was actually, well, it was at Excel University, and it was held actually in one of the Hilton hotels as well. So it's very posh as well. It was a beautiful setting as well. And just to see so many people there coming together as well, with their loved ones, their families as well, and friends, it was absolutely amazing.
Must have been a joyous occasion. Tell us,
It was,
let's scoot back a little bit now. Let's backtrack. So, born in the late 60s, 60s child, a bit like myself, and grew up in South London, Southeast London, Brixton. What was life like back then, growing up in Southeast London? Do you have brothers and sisters?
yes, I do, funny enough. I've got a sister younger than me, and I've got a brother and a sister older than me. you
Okay, so
know.
you're
So
in
it
the
was fun.
middle.
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of like in the middle. Yeah, in a sense, yeah, that's right. You know, I'm like the third one.
Okay, and what was like life like growing up in Brixton, in the let's say I don't know because you was born 1969, 70s, early 70s, 77, 79. You would have been you would have done school and stuff. What was life like back then?
No, no, well, I would have said from the late 70s, early 80s as well. You know, school, I went to school in Brixton, and that in itself was wonderful. I must admit, it was a great time there going through that sort of primary school. It was more like when I went through to the secondary schools, like 11 years old now, you know, in the 80s, like early. There was a lot of challenges because we had to face a lot of racism. Skinheads, mods, and teddy boys would meet us at the gate, and they were just ready for a fight, and there was no reason for it other than your skin color. So you know, yeah, I grew up tough. I took up boxing. You know, I came a very good street fighter, and I took it from the ring onto the streets. It was either subdue or be subdued. You know, and it was on every single time after school. It was on.
Yeah, I could just well, I can relate to that because I attended school in South East London as well, and the area in which I attended school was it was a tough area, and I remember many a days coming home from school and looking up in the sky just to see like a shower of glass
Wow.
bottles heading my way. Yeah, 70s was kind of rough. NF, National
Oh
Front, and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, I can definitely relate. Um,
yeah.
as I read in the intro, there was a period of time when you got in trouble, and it wasn't just for like shoplifting sweets or anything like that. Tell us about that whole period, because after that period of time, your life did take a turn. But I want the viewers to understand where you're coming from.
You know,
Yeah, if you could
yeah.
just expound on that for us.
All right. Well, I must admit, I was a very angry young man. You know, I was bad tempered. I was ill tempered. You know, contrary to scriptures that said, be angry and sin not. I would be angry and I would sin a lot. You know, and I looked back over my life actually and tried to analyze to make some sense of some of my nonsense to why it was I was the way I was, why I was so angry. And I wondered first, Lee Grant, I wondered if it was because they said if there's anything worse than the rage and the frustration that comes out of us, it's the things that don't come out of us. And it's the inability to put your thoughts into words that can be very frustrating because I had learning difficulties. It's only later on I found out I had dyslexia, but I don't view it as a disability. I see it as a different ability. And I looked over my life and I kept pondering, why was I so angry? And then I wondered, was it because as a teenager, when I was standing outside my family home, two CID officers, a plain clothes, black and white officers, came up to me, bundled me into a police car, brought me to Brixton police station and took out a big long dagger knife and said, "This is yours." Took my fingerprints, took my pictures and said to me, "You know you didn't have it. We know you didn't have it, but you Brixton boys think you're hard." And that was the journey where I built up an antipathy towards police because I actually went to prison for something I didn't do.
Yeah,
And it was in the 90s that I ended up going to the top high security prison, Belmarsh, where I beat up four police officers, knocked one out unconscious, was looking a lengthy sentence. Not only was I on there for a being sentence, I was also there for a remand because I took this violence to a whole different level. You know,
yeah.
like I said, very, very angry.
That must have been a really sort of like eye-opening type of experience for you, because I mean, to be locked up in a cell for something that you had been framed for, um, it must have really jolted you in a sense of not being able to you know move forward as a youth, that sort of thing. How
Yeah,
did you cope? How did you cope with all of that?
well, let me tell you something. I mean, it was challenging because you see, back in those days, there was free inmates to a bang up. So when you went into your cell, there was free you. And it was like a little box that you were locked up in. And I remembered saying to the guys, I was a teenager. I shouldn't have actually been in Brixton prison because I was too young, but all the other prisons were full. And I remember these two grown men saying, that bunk bed there belongs to you. And I remember asking what happened to the other person that was in there. And they took out this plastic mirror and said that we took care of him. We took care of him. In other words, they smashed him over the head until he was basically unconscious and kicked him out the cell. And then I was banged up with these two guys. So of course, even that experience in itself was very challenging. You know, them days, you know, you just get on with it. But it was challenging for me as a young boy as well. And I think that was part of it that didn't rehabilitate me. Yeah, I could definitely tell you that. It just got me more aware of what life was really like, because I was around people that I probably wouldn't have been around with had I been out there on the street, you know? To be honest with you, it was challenging. I don't even know how I initially pulled through at that young stage, you know, because I went on to constantly going in and out of prison. And the many times it was for assault, and I saw some police again, you know,
Yeah.
because of this antipathy that I had built up.
And how did your parents handle this? You know, I would imagine it didn't go down too well. Jamaican parents don't joke, right?
No, they don't. They don't joke. They don't joke. One thing I would say, they're very much about justice. They do not like injustice. I can tell you that much. And so my mum knew that initially what I went to prison for was an injustice. So I guess she had a level of understanding or empathy for her son, but it wasn't good because I was the black sheep, so to speak, of the family. You know, none of my brother and my other two sisters, they'd never been in trouble with the law before, you know, so that was very challenging. And I even felt it for my mum when she would come and visit me, you know, because I was incarcerated. My father refused to visit me. He weren't stepping foot in no prison, you know, no jailhouse, no. He weren't going there at all. My mum would. I guess that's mothers for you, you know, because they nurture. Where fathers, they more affirm, even though the roles are interchangeable. But that's the role. But mum would be there if I was in a police station. She come them days. My mum would bring me some chicken and rice because Brixton police station was around the corner from there. And I get a bite to eat. And sometimes she will come up with one of my siblings and just visit me as well. And that was hard for her as well, you know. And I'd be constantly just saying, Mommy, I'm sorry, you know,
Yeah.
I'm
You
sorry. And that
you
was,
spent some time in a hostel as well, so and that was quite an experience that I'd love you to share with our
yeah, yeah.
viewers as well.
Yes, and you see, you know, I was getting to a place in my life when my father being a Jamaican parent, and I just say it the way he said it. He said, two man can't stay in the same yard. You know, that's how my father put it to me. So one of us had to go. Obviously, that's going to be me. So I found myself, I was out on the street. So technically I was homeless, man. You know, for the first time I would be sleeping in my car, you know, my brethren's yard, you know, back then, now they call it sofa surfing, you know, and that was challenging until I eventually managed to get myself a hostel in South London, you know, and it was a 6 bedroom house, you know, but I was still such a violent young man that I beat up everybody and terrorized everybody in the hostel till I was the only one left. And then the housing association, they came to me. And this is, when I look back now, I must have driven some high level of fear into people. And I did. And I got to realize that later on in life. They said to me, we're not going to rehouse you. You can keep the house. So I had a 6 bedroom house all to myself with the right to buy. And it didn't stop there because as insecure as I was, and you know, I had things coming in, ill-gotten gains. I was living the high life. I was living a BIG lifestyle.
Wow.
You know, and then the girls will follow alongside of that. And then there would be girls in every single room and they'd be my girls. They're happy to be with me. It was a terrible time with the insecurity that I had at the time that I didn't realize until I became older. But this is the way I was living my life, you know. That was my world. You know, that was my world.
So, at what age was this sort of thing happening?
You know, I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s. It was so funny. Even though I look back at my life now, I realized so much things I'd gone through such an early stage of my life. I couldn't even believe it. When I look back now, I'm thinking, no, man, you must have been that. No, it's like the enemy on me on a road to destruction. And I realized no matter what it was for the reasons for my disposition, you know, in life, the devil was trying to take my life.
Yeah, most
He was.
definitely.
Life. I mean,
Most
leave
definitely.
on. one of the things I would used to do as well, this sounds so crazy. When I look back now, I must have been crazy. I would come up to the zebra crossings in the road, and every single time I came to the zebra crossing in the road, every time, I would never stop at the zebra crossing. I would run straight in front of the zebra crossing and cars would be coming. So cars would be skidding at my feet. I'd be turning around. I'd be throwing punches and knocking drivers out and leaving them overhanging from their car window on the zebra crossing. And I would do them every single time. So I know the devil was trying to take my life. I never stopped at it. Wham, straight into it. And as the car skid next to me, I said, "What are you doing?" Bam, bam, bam. And I would do that all the time. I'd be smashing out windows. I'd be just walking around, cars driving past me. I'd be throwing punches and smashing out people's car windows. Sometimes I would
I'm
walk.
trying to wrap my head around why. I mean, that's the question in my mind.
Listen,
Why would you do that?
I would still try. Listen, there'd be 20 cars in the road. If I was on the pavement and there'd be 20 cars parked, I would walk past every single car and I would walk across it and go wham, wham, and I would guarantee to break out every single window of those cars. I mean, I don't know what it was that was taking me. Even when I was in prison, they would show me photographs of people that I'd injured and said, "You did this. What did you use?" And I remember lifting up my hands and I said, "My hammers." I used to call them my hammers. I was very good at fighting, very good with my hands. And I would use them to dominate, and terrorize people wherever I needed to. I was never a bully. I beat up bullies. That's the kind of person I was. Because just like my parents, I didn't like injustice. It was
Yeah.
a crazy lifestyle. And even looking back, thinking of times when the police have flashed their badge at me, and instead of me stopping, I've run towards the police, and the police jumps in their car and drives off. Because obviously they must be thinking, this guy's crazy. We've just told him to stop and pull over. We flashed our badges, and he's jumped out and he's just charging at us. And I'm looking back and I'm telling you the truth, Grantley. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like two different people. When I talk about that life to where I am now and who I am now, even now, it just perplexes me. I'm like, is that for real? Is that really what you were going on with? Is that how you really was living your life? I would rush into crowds of gangs. They wouldn't call them gangs. Let's say group of boys. There'd be like 6 guys in one place, and I'll be looking for the tallest, the biggest, who looks the strongest. And I'll be guaranteed to be coming in and just putting in a flurry of punches and knocking the biggest person out. And I would do that like regularly. I was like, I don't know what that was all about. I've done some crazy stuff, I must admit. It shows you, I tell you, the devil has a plan, but God also has a plan. And the devil is the father of lies, but God is the God of truth.
Amen. I'm glad you said that because, you didn't stay down in the gutter, in the dark. You came to the light, as it were. And what brought you to Christ? Can you remember the time, that specific time that you gave your life to Christ? How did it happen?
I can remember that specific time, but the time before that, what happened when I was actually in prison? You see, I learned to read and write in prison. I learned to read by reading the Bible, and I learned to write by copying the handwriting of the letters I received. I began to read the Bible. God started to teach me. And while I was in that prison cell, especially on the Saturdays, I called it my Sabbath days. And there'd be armed robbers, there'd be drug dealers coming to my cell. We call it the Peter. They said, "That's my Peter." And they'll hear me quoting the word. And they would come and they want to be prayed for. They basically gave their lives to the Lord. And so did I. But it was the strangest experience. And I say this all the time. It's like I was saved, but I didn't know it. But it's like I was saved under grace. Because if you messed with me in prison, I still was going to do you something. And I did do people something while I was in prison, because I was still so angry. And I remembered every time I came to the scripture that talked about an angry man is a fool, I would throw the Bible down. And I'm like, who said that? Who said that? Who said that? And I would reach that scripture and I could never find it because I knew it was talking to me. But there was nobody I could challenge. And it was God just saying to me, "You're an angry man. You're a fool." And he was telling me to my face, but I couldn't do nothing about it. And so the journey started from there. And I remembered a time when I was seeking bail. Now, I was seeking bail. I was in a sweatbox. They called it little vans with the dark windows that you see passing by. I think the security people, they deal with it now. And I went to get bail. And the judge said to me, I remembered as I stood there, he said, "You're not getting bail, Mr. Williams." He says, "You're too violent. I'm looking at your record. You're a very aggressive and violent young man. You've just finished your sentence for assault on four police officers. You're also on remand and you want bail. you're going back to prison. And it was whilst I was on my way back to prison, this is how it started. I had a Bible that my mother gave me, and the Bible opened up, I would say supernaturally, in the book of Ezekiel, and it said, young man, I call you to be a watchman. I remember saying to the Lord, I don't understand. I closed the Bible again. It opened up again in a different passage of scripture, but it read exactly the same thing. It said, young man, I call you to be a watchman. I remember looking up to heaven and saying, Lord, I answer the call. They got me back to prison. I was locked away in my cell. And before nightfall, they came to my cell and said to me, Williams? I said, yes, God. They said, pack your kit. You're going home. I'm telling you, only God could have done that. I just came from the court and they said to me, you are not getting bail. But it was only later on God said to me that your incarceration was the belly of the whale like Jonah. And until you answered the call, I weren't letting you out. I weren't spewing you out. And it was only later on I found out that. And that was the start of it. I mean, that's how it began. That's how the journey began. And it was a year later, to answer your question now. It was a year later, after being out of prison, still living the same lifestyle again. Sometimes, as you know, we do. We say, God, if you do this for me, I'll do that. And then he does it for you and you continue doing what you were doing before and forget that the deal you already made with him. But it was a year later. You know the one. God, you know what I'm saying, Lee? You know the one. You know the one. You know the one. You want me to go on? Can you hear me? I can't hear you right now, but I know you're there. The devil is a liar. I just command that vocals to come back right now.
Yeah, so there you go. It's as simple as that. So look, you've been doing music ministry for the longest while now, and a lot of people don't know how it all began. Share that with us.
Right, the music ministry side, it came when I got saved. Initially, when I got saved, after walking in that church, after being set up by somebody to visit the gospel service, and the minister coming up to me and saying, I want to pray for you. And I still, no, you can't pray for me. And then the third time he said, why? And I said, because I'm a liar. And this is giving you the history. And he says, do you have to lie? I said, I'm going to lie because I knew my lifestyle. But then he said it to me a third time, and I realized I don't have to lie. And it was like a revelation to me, Grant Lee. I walked out of my seat, turned around to every congregant and said, I don't have to lie. I don't have to lie. I went to the front of the church. I fell back on the floor. Something hit me down supernaturally. I jumped back up. Like to say, I slipped, slip. You understand? And I held my stance like a boxer. And when I stood my stance, I fell back on the floor again. I just about to get back up. And then I heard the voice of God audibly, in the voice of my father, and he said, stay there. And I stayed on that floor, September the 27th, 1992, to be specific, like you said to me. That was the time, to be specific. I changed my life, started ministering and singing into the churches. Now, let me say, not straight away, because when I first got born again, I gave away the records, I gave away my clothing, I gave away my style. I didn't believe these things were right to wear or things to do. And then God spoke to me and said, the devil's had music in captivity far too long. Take it and use it for my glory. And I knew the music that I loved, which was reggae music. And then I just started going out singing local tunes that people knew, but putting the gospel flavor on it, because the gospel is the good news. The gospel is the message and not the music. The music's just a vehicle to carry. And then that's how it started, just going around and singing those songs in the churches.
Those were the early days, and very fond memories of being introduced to your music in the early days. Tell us about some of the people that were around in those early days. Who else was
My
ministering
gosh.
gospel reggae?
Right. The influence for me was Anne Swinton.
Anne
The
Swinton,
first
Sister
Anne
Anne.
Swinton. Yeah, man. Sister Anne Swinton. She was the first. Now, she was the first I saw in the reggae music, but the very first person I saw minister in a way that I've never seen before was Nathan Prime.
Okay.
And Nathan Prime, when I went to the Wade Brothers Church, and Nathan Prime was singing, and I think, wow. Because I didn't know you could sing gospel like this. And in them days, it reminded me of someone like the Bobby Browns. You know what I mean? It was that type of style. And I was blown away. And then I saw gifted, where have you been? I saw the gifted and the blessed man.
Gifted.
I mean, listen, these guys rock my faith. You know what I mean? They like were helped to anchor me because God told me to do something. I stepped out by faith, you know, but and even before I actually started moving out, I was hearing these guys. I'm like, what is going on here? And it was like it made me realize, you know what, David, you're hearing from God, you know. You're
Yeah.
hearing from God. And those were the early days. And no, let me forget. Don't let me forget. Let me not forget the Wade brothers. I can't forget the Wade brothers because when the Wade brothers would sing as a group, and they did it on the same night that Nathan Brown was singing, where I was like, whoa, where they get a group of boys or men, young men like this, brothers singing, and the way Dennis Wade would rock it, you know, he would just, you know, it was beautiful just watching these men
They
of God
were
who were ministers.
such an influence. I remember
Whoa,
them with fond memories. Pastor Dennis,
big time.
David, and Lloyd.
What?
My
Yeah, Derek,
goodness, the
yeah,
Wade
that's
brothers,
right.
man.
They were it, man. Trust
Yeah,
me, they were.
and not only were they great gospel artists here in the UK, they all became Dennis, Pastor Dave, big ups to Pastor Dennis. They became pastors, and they also used to have lots of events at their church.
Oh, I was going to say that. They
Lots
did.
of events, lots of
Yes.
like club nights, etc.
Yes, they did. They did.
And I'm telling you, people that weren't Christians who came along to that event, they got saved. And they were, let me say this, they were an inspiration to me. They were one of the people that, when I saw what they were doing, it spurred
Yes.
me on to go on and create a gospel
Wow.
light club called Straight Up at the Click Club.
Yes.
But
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
the
Remember
Wade
the clip, man?
brothers,
Yeah, yeah,
big
man.
ups to you guys. Big ups to you guys.
No,
So those were the early days,
yeah, with the
and you
early days.
witnessing other people doing what you went on to do yourself, right?
Yeah, now it was, yeah, it's so beautiful now. Let me not forget just to say big up to Raymond Dyer because that man really was a
Yeah,
support to me. Just like the Wade brothers was at the time, and he was a great influence to me. And he
yeah.
opened up the church doors to me when people wouldn't open up the church doors to me. And he said, "Come in, come in." Even though they didn't like my style, if it was the devil's music, and I would always tell a story when I was in I Am Haley's church. You know, and I heard that the people saying to me, "Boo, get off!" But you know what? They wasn't. But it was beams of light. I never forget it. But they were religious spirits telling me to boo, to get off. But I continued to persevere. And as I continued to persevere, there was an eruption and a standing ovation as the word came through like a double-edged sword. I'll never forget it. And it was a powerful time. And from that time, Raymond down, Isaiah, to be precise now, would say, come again, Watchman, come again, come again. And it was beautiful because, you know, they didn't want my name on the flyers. It was XYZ Raymond and Co. I didn't think it was Co at the time, I'm not sure. And then there was others. I was the others. And then it continued to develop until it was Watchman. And it was like, yeah, bring that spirit, the Watchman, bring that spirit that's going to break some demonic oaths and strong oaths. And it was beautiful to be you
Absolutely
know,
beautiful.
it
Absolutely
was
beautiful.
amazing times, man.
Early days, I tell you, the early days. You know, I remember those early days with so much fond memories. You know,
Me too.
we used to go to events, and I'm hoping that this comes back around.
Yeah.
We used to go to events, and guaranteed there'd be an altar call at the end of the event. Someone would get
Come on.
saved.
This is the
Someone would
altar
get saved.
call. Listen, man, we used to even have songs that we created just for altar calls. You know, because it was imperative to introduce people to Jesus. It was imperative. You know, the first thing, it was ministry first, entertainment and performance after. But it was always ministry first. We was always there as a servitude to serve. And we wanted to see souls saved. And I like to believe that's what it is like today. But it seemed like the altar call maybe not so big upon that as it was back
Well, we'll
then. But
pray that comes full circle again. The
yeah,
early
please.
days were great. You were honing your craft, but you were also linking with people like Gifted that you just mentioned, and then you started partner up in terms of production with the late great Tony Rich.
Oh wow,
who
amazing.
is fondly missed by so many, including
Oh
myself.
wow, wow,
Tell us
wow,
about
wow, wow.
that meeting of the minds that came together when you met Tony and started doing some production work with him.
Yeah, you know what? There were some doors that opened up to me for me at Jetstar, and it was Gospel Times was what it was called. I believe Jetstar had something called
Yeah,
Gospel.
they had a division called Gospel
They
Times.
did.
Yeah,
That's right. And the late respectful Tony Rich would bring artists in, and I was one of them. But even before that, we had a conversation, and we began to build up a great friendship, and we were able to even to minister and sing together as well, and which was amazing as well. Tony Rich was very influential because he was a man of fun. He was a man of laughter. And he was a man that wherever he went, he would bring joy. He would just break out into songs wherever he was. And he brought in some great, great men of God, and who wouldn't sing gospel before then,
yeah.
and just
I
having him in the
must say,
studio.
I remember fondly how we brought on people like Hensley King, but moreover, the
That's right.
great Osmond Collins, who
Yeah.
before Tony and himself hooked up, Osmond was not doing anything to do with reggae at all.
Yeah.
I think Tony ended up producing 4 reggae albums with him,
Wow.
and
Is it
to this
four?
day they are all classics.
My
Um,
God.
so that
Gosh.
just goes to show you the strength
Yes.
of a
It does.
producer who can take somebody that has no idea, no sort of background to do with reggae, much less gospel reggae, and turn them into a reggae gospel artist. That
Amazing.
is that
Amazing.
is just unbelievable. Tony worked with Osmond Collins, Hensley
Yeah.
King, Carlene Davis,
Yeah.
so many people,
He
and
did.
did some really brilliant work with them, including yourself. You did a single with him, didn't you? Called "I'm
Oh,
Not
no, I did
Sorry."
not. It's on the tip of my tongue now. Why isn't it a single? Yeah, I did. I did. We did a single together as well. I can see it there right now. Oh, Tony singing it, me singing it. No, yeah, we did. We did. We did.
Give us
Yeah.
your rap that went with that song. Can you remember it?
Oh yeah, you know what? I can and I can't. Oh, but that is it go now. Oh no no. Uh, oh my gosh. Yeah, it will come back
You
to
know
me. It's
what?
like
I'm not gonna put
I'm just
I'm
in
not
a
gonna put
different
you under
zone right
pressure
now, and it's
because
there. I can
it's
hear it.
one
I
of
can
those
see it.
ones really where you need to hear his verse first, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it was
yeah.
a
So
proper
well,
tune
let's skip over that one.
that he was doing. He was a popular tune, and I was freestyle on before the show done. I'm gonna give you that freestyle. Yeah.
Great. So there you go. So those were the early days. You did lots of work with Tony. You then went on to do some work with some other well known producers and artists as well. Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
I mean, the doors opened up wide. I was privileged to work with quite a few artists as well, out there within the industry, which was a blessing as well, and also be a great support for many as well. I mean, that in itself was great. I mean, not just artists, but also ministers as well, opening up for some great men of God as well, like Pastor Ashley Mashallah, Bishop John Francis. There was some great work that I've been able to be privy to. I mean, there are some things that ain't even come out yet. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I did a version for the late Luther Vandross. Who knows? One day they might put that out.
Oh
That was
wow!
yeah,
Look at that.
Byron Orm. Byron Orm was the one who constructed that. I believe he was also the pioneer for the sounds of blackness, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And he said, "Listen, come on, let's do a remix for one of his tunes," and it was great. And Les Moya was great as well. He introduced me down to Abbey Road to do an album with him as well, and called Like Never Before, and we did it on the Goatee OTR records as well. So you know what? Yeah, it's been great. I mean, lately some great artists as well, like Jermaine Edwards, Run Positive as well. They've come up and they've paired up with me and done tracks as well. So it's been a great journey. It's been a great
Many
journey.
facets to you, Dr. David. Many facets to you. So I remember there was a time when you started an organization called Rap Academy.
Oh yeah.
And I know that's kind of changed now. Tell us about Rap Academy and what was the whole purpose of that.
Now, Rap Academy came about through the governor Paul Manwaring at Untercome Young Offenders Institution. Paul Manwaring, may I say now, is an established, and he always probably was then as well, but he was an out minister as well. I know he's ministering recently on the platform along with Bishop and Francis as well. And he said to me whilst I was in the prison in Antacom, and I was there with a friend, a good friend of mine's called Gifted. And he said, look, there's not a job here for you. Can you create one? And me and Gifted, we mulled around, and the idea came of Rap Academy. And Gifted was the person I would say who brought that all about initially. And we said, that's what we're going to call it, the Rap Academy, an Antacom Young Offenders Institution. And we just started working in the prisons on the Rap Academy. The work got acknowledged. It went to Eton when Prince Aaron and Williams were small. They were there. They saw some of our work. Prince Charles made it do Party in the Park, the very first ever unsigned band. I remember the Sun newspaper calling it Charles Robin Rollers. It was amazing. And then it just developed and grew. And I said I wanted to take it further. I remember saying Gifted, calling him up, say, Gee, I want to run with that. I want to keep it moving. And yeah, we came to that arrangement. Yeah, Watchman, you go and do your thing. And then I just put out the Rap Academy as an organization because it was only a titled name. It was never a company. And I opened up a company and we just saw it thriving and growing. And it was the same Rap Academy that at the time 11-year-old Stormzy came from. When I opened it up over in the Croydon area, you know what, it just began to do leaps and bounds. And today it's now a community interest company. And I still own the Rap Academy, and the Rap Academy and now the Rap Mentors as well, and the Rap Records. But the Rap Academy, the main name now is Reaching All People's Trust, because that's what the rap always stands for. The
Yeah.
rap abbreviation, it always stands for Reaching All People Trust. Rap, Reaching All People, that's what it stood for. So yeah, we're doing great work with it even today. Yeah, and under the organization, I'm doing some great work with the police.
You've come full circle from the days where you're getting locked up in the prison, and you're not developing any kind of relationship with the police force, and now today you're working with the police on several different projects and stuff like that. Tell us about the work that you're actually doing with the police right now.
Lee, I can tell you, it's so ironic, and this is where you can see God. I've been privileged to work with some great police officers in Northern Ireland with the PSNI, Jamaica as well with Operation Kingfish, what's going on out there, and also here in the UK with Trident. And right now, I'm working very much and very closely under this program, which is called Divert. And Divert is a program that helps and assists young people away from crime. So the officers will no longer just stop and search, they will stop and refer. And when they press a button on their devices, it comes over to me. And then I will begin to do a screening with the young person. I was doing some before me came on to do this interview as well. And so it's absolutely amazing. And under the Reaching All People Trust, I now go in and I train the police recruits.
Look at
Um,
that. Look at
every
that.
5 weeks,
Training the police. No doubt.
the new recruits, they come to me every 5 weeks, and then we start the training and we talk about the community input. And I talk about some of my testimony as well. It's
Yeah.
not everybody that you're trying to stop in their car that is not stopping as a knife or a gun. Maybe they've gone through some trauma like what I did. I wasn't going to stop.
Yeah.
And so it gives them food for thought as well. And so it's very beautiful and I enjoy it. And it's wonderful because you get to see the human side of policing. And that's something that I'm advocating at the moment for the community and the police. Rather than us and them, we are all part of one community. And it's important that us as a community see the human side of policing because they're human beings too.
Absolutely. We've come full circle with you. The
Yeah.
single is out right now. Let's talk on that before we wrap up today. So it's
Yes.
called My God is Legend. Why did you choose that particular title? Tell us all about My God is Legend.
I'll be honest with you, the title itself, it came about organically. Basically, similar to the way you are talking with and addressing me today and having me to dig deep and to bring out the goodness of what God has done. And I did that myself. I self-reflect many times. I take an inventory of where I am in life and I realize, my God, David, look what God has done. He has proved to be consistent throughout, this God that I serve. And I realize for true, he is legend. I have to big him up. lift him up. Because when I check it out, he's been there with me, even when I didn't know that he was there with me. And I've come to understand his ways, that, he is faithful, even when we are unfaithful. And for me, he is legend, based on everything that we talked about through this
My
interview.
God, is
Yeah.
legend. Such a great
Yeah.
title. It's a great song. I love it. I really do. There is a comedic side to some of the lyrics that you've got in there. Um, the weight of sin can be paralyzing, like my granny's plus size dumplings.
Very.
You must have been in the right funny mood when you wrote those lyrics.
No, yeah, because you see, I realize there's such a colorful side of God, and it'd be so unfair to write something which is so strong, but yet still not showing how God is very comical, very loving, and very funny. And it's so true, the weight of sin can be paralyzing. And if you look at the word paralyzing, you pull up the word sin within it. So it's a lot of play with words in there, you know, along the way. But it's fun as well. And I enjoy what I do. I enjoy my music. And
I
what
can
the thing
tell.
about it,
I can
I
tell.
enjoy it. I
I can
enjoy it.
tell. And you're stretching the boundaries as well. The the way that you're recording now with Dolby, the latest Dolby sound and stuff. You're really pushing out you're really stretching and pushing the borders of how you're delivering your music, right?
I am, because I think that's how I started, so in the beginning, so it shall be in the end. And I'm doing it because I'm enjoying it. It's not directly about whether or not it's received, because I wasn't received. Jesus wasn't received, but it's about being obedient. And I think that's the key thing. And I remembered when God called me to do certain things that he asked me to do in life. And I would say to him, why are you calling me? There are other people that's better than me. And he would say to me, because you're willing. And so willingness is the key. And so I just do things out of obedience, and I said, I'm going to do this song, I'm going to do that song, because I believe that's where God's leading me. I mean, I could sit down and write something to say, this is the hit bad, what I mean? But it's never about that for me. It's about a message, it's about getting that message out there that is relevant. And there's somebody that needs to see that message. And if I'm going to give the same message like everyone else, what am I saying? I'm doing anything different than anyone else. But I need to give something that I believe can strengthen somebody who needs it. And I remembered when I was releasing my album, just single before that, someone stopped me in the street and said, thank you so much for your single, and it was about just me and her. And it was about, marriage and relationships. And she said, I needed to hear that. Thank you so
That's
much. And it makes
that's
me encouraged.
that's the
Because you
sort
think,
of thing that makes it, that sort of cements why you do this. That's the
it
sort of
does.
comments. That's the sort of things
Yeah.
that that puts a smile on your face, and
One.
God's smiling when
Yeah.
those statements are being made. So tell us where we can get our hands on the single. It's out. It's been out for a little while now. How can we get our
Yeah.
hands on the single?
Now, it's on all major platforms, and I'm gonna tell you this. I tell you something. I don't know what iTunes are playing at right now. It's saying it's there, but I can't see it. I don't know what's going on.
We're
There's
gonna
also
have to start our own platform where you
I
can
don't know
just
what's going on there.
download
There's a
it.
ringtone to it. The ringtone ain't there, so it's everywhere else. I don't want to tell lies. It's supposed to be on all major platforms, but for some reason, it's saying we got it. But I'm looking and I can't see it. But you know what? To God be the glory. No Jack and Nori. It's another story. Uh, yeah.
So look, just do a search anyway. Go out and do a search for Watchman. My God is legend. So what's next for you, Dave? Is it more music? Is it more ministry? What's down the pipe?
I'll be honest with you. I think ministry will never leave me. A lot of the community justice work is very much, at the forefront of what I'm doing at the moment. And sometimes I feel like, I'm not necessarily going to put out any more music and stuff, but I'm going to do a few more. And, just give God the glory. I'm just being obedient because I got gifts and talents, and I don't want him to say, oh, you should have used that and you didn't use it. So, but really, a lot of the things I want to do now, definitely want to just focus on
Excellent.
on the work I'm doing out there now with the police and seeing young people's life change around. I want to tackle knife crime. I've opened up a new organization, fun enough, and it's called Straight to the Point. Where I'm constructing knife crime workshops, and it comes under the KCPOs, which is Knife Crime Prevention Orders. It's kind of brand new.
Excellent.
they've just put out. So
Excellent.
I've created it. The government like it, and they say it's working. So I wanna tackle some of this crime, man.
That's
To be honest
brilliant.
with
That's brilliant
you.
because that's truly giving back to youth that were like yourself. You
That's
know,
right. I
you're creating
understand.
platforms where people can actually turn their lives around, and that is so important. It really is. How can we get in contact with you if people want to reach out to you for whatever reason, whether they're booking you or they want you to be their keynote speaker? How can they do that?
Well, the good thing, the LinkedIn is very key. So you've got Dr. David Williams on the LinkedIn. You've got the Facebook page, which is Watchman and Watchwoman Ministries. My beautiful wife, Latoya. And then you've got Dr. David Williams on Facebook. So those mediums, you can use as well. And also feel free to send an email if you need be to daconsultancy@me.com.
Thank you so much. Dr.
Thank you.
David Williams, also known as the Watchman. Thank you for your time. God bless you, sir, as you continue to do God's work.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you go. Dr. David Williams, also known as Watchman, was my guest on today's program. Thank you for tuning in this way. If you like what you saw today, then why not subscribe to the channel, the Straight Up TV channel here on YouTube, or you can give us a thumbs up. That'd be nice. Share this video with a friend. It'd be really nice. I'm back again real soon. I've got some really nice interviews lined up for you, so please do keep locked this way. Until then, why not check out one of these videos? And I'll speak to you real soon. Take care now.